Hello there. The Home Secretary Priti Patel has unveiled a new government bill to authorise undercover agents to engage in criminal activity. Firstly, please subscribe and like this video to give my channel a boost. And I'm always uploading new content, so please do check back daily. And a big thanks to my Patreon and PayPal supporters. James Bond has his licence to roam the world almost at will, causing mayhem and death, whilst trashing any bit of kit that Q magics up for him. Not to mention all that bedding of women while thinking of England. But in truth, it's all a lot seedier than that, and involves the use of people working undercover and close up and personal with some very objectionable people. Because to get close enough to the workings of organised crime and the like, you have to be trusted by the bosses. And that might require what is known as a Covert Human Intelligence Source, or CHIS, to involve themselves in criminal activity or blow their cover. For example, if one of the crew kept crying off at the last minute and was not there for the heists, scams or robberies or whatever vicious little activity was on hand, the others would get suspicious very quickly, with possibly lethal results. And if the stakes were extremely high for the nation, then it has long been accepted that the undercover agents would engage in highly illegal activity for the future and greater gain of the country. But at present, this sort of activity seems to me to be governed by a gentleman's agreement of issued guidance, along the lines of, as long as it looks legit, we'll keep the authorities off your back for it. Mainly because the illegal actions remain illegal, even if conducted for the benefit of the nation state. Here's what the House of Commons Library briefing paper issued a few days ago says on this. The findings of a review into the circumstances surrounding the death of lawyer Patrick Finucane in Belfast during the Troubles was published in 2012. Conducted by Sir Desmond de Silva QC, the review noted that the penetration of an agent into the very heart of a terrorist group inevitably involved the agent concerned becoming involved in criminal activity to some degree. Indeed, the most valuable agents during the Troubles were undoubtedly those positioned deep within the terrorist groups themselves, and this required such individuals to be heavily involved in activity that could amount to serious criminal acts. And it goes on to say, the management of agents was governed by non-statutory guidance and direction, informed to a limited degree by case law concerning criminal liability, particularly relating to conspiratorial offences. And it also says, the De Silva report concluded that the running of agents within terrorist groups was not illegitimate or unnecessary. On the contrary, it went to the heart of tackling terrorism. However, it should be conducted within a rigorous framework structured so as to ensure adequate oversight and accountability. In particular, the report concluded it is essential that the involvement of agents in serious criminal offences can always be reviewed and investigated, and that allegations of collusion with terrorist groups are rigorously pursued. And it continues. This would require clear statutory recognition that agents must be run at the heart of terrorist groups, and some recognised limits as to the extent to which agents could become involved in criminal enterprises. Something that legislation didn't cover, so it would be left to those managing the agents. And in the 2015 annual report from the Parliamentary Intelligence and Security Committee, it said, agent participation in the commission of an offence. There may be occasions where a CHIS participates in a criminal offence in order to gather the required intelligence, for example, membership of a proscribed organisation or handling stolen goods. However, in specific situations where the intelligence dividend justifies it, a good argument can be made that it is in the public interest and for the greater good to become involved. Although such activity cannot be made lawful, I have recommended that the agency must justify the public interest test. Now, one judge commented on a legal challenge to all of this in the Third Direction case, saying, "Legislation to authorise a matter as important and grave as the practices and policy relating to agent participation in criminality must be expressed in clear and unambiguous language, even if national security considerations demand that much of the detail must remain confidential." And it seems that this new bill, the Covert Human Intelligence Sources Criminal Conduct Bill, seeks to redress that hole in our legislation. Now, I'm not at all sure if these laws, if enacted, would break EU law, but I'm assuming it will be timed to come into force after the end of the Brexit implementation period. Anyway, as the House of Commons Library says, the bill would amend Part 2 of the Regulation on Investigatory Powers Act to provide a power for security, intelligence and law enforcement agencies, as well as a number of other public bodies, to authorise CHISs to participate in criminal conduct. And there are two parts to this. Right now, under Section 29 of the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act, or REPA, there is already a regulatory route for putting a CHIS in place. But the new bill would add in an extra section, 29B, which would allow undercover agent handlers to authorise their charges to participate in criminal activity. And importantly, you cannot authorise an agent to involve themselves in criminal activity unless they are already authorised to be undercover. And further, this authority would only be given where it is necessary on the grounds of national security, or preventing or detecting crime or preventing disorder, or the economic well-being of the country. And it has to be proportionate. And the number of organisations this would apply to is quite long. Any police force, the National Crime Agency, any of the intelligence services, any of Her Majesty's forces, HMRC, the Department of Health and Social Care, the Home Office, the Ministry of Justice, the Competition and Markets Authority, the Environment Agency, the Financial Conduct Authority, the Food Standards Agency, the Gambling Commission, and the Serious Fraud Office. So, the ability to break the law, as long as you've had prior approval and it's in the national interest, will be put on the statute books. But there are still serious concerns, as the House of Commons Library paper says. The bill places no express limits on the types of crime which can be authorised. In particular, that there is nothing that would expressly prevent authorisations covering murder, torture or sexual violence. But were limits to be openly stated, it would severely undermine the whole point of this, because a criminal or terrorist gang could set tests at certain levels to find out who the traitors were and how far up the spy food chain they were. And another criticism levelled at the bill is that it represents a significant expansion of the existing policy by making authorised criminal conduct lawful for all purposes. This would bypass prosecutors, thus eroding the separation of powers and removing the ability of independent prosecutors to bring prosecutions where it is in the public interest. And also that the bill would prevent victims from seeking redress by protecting those who commit authorised crimes from civil liability. They suggest that the bill would also prevent victims from seeking compensation under the Criminal Injuries Compensation Scheme. Having read through all this, it appears to me that many human rights orientated organisations wanted a law that could only authorise a minimum level of law breaking by undercover agents, A bit of minor theft here or money laundering there and the like, as long as no one got hurt. Whereas in truth, when the stakes are extremely high, the need for extreme law breaking by an agent has the potential to increase exponentially. And the House of Commons Library reports that MI5 and the law enforcement community have welcomed the bill. Ken McCullum, Director General of MI5, described the power as vital so we can continue to meet our duty to keep the public safe. Graham McNulty, the National Police Chiefs Council CHIS lead, welcomed the creation of an express power and said that the bill would help to disrupt the activities of violent gangs and keep communities safe. Lynn Owens, GD of the NCA, described the capability as crucial and said that without it they would not be able to bring criminals to justice. The Intelligence and Security Committee of Parliament also expressed strong support for the principle behind the legislation. The committee said that the need for such authorisations is clear and we support the principle of their use by MI5, and noted the need for checks and balances to maintain public confidence in the use of the powers. The message seems clear. Those in power want these extra powers, and human rights type bodies are not at all convinced. It all depends on your perspective, I suppose. But I will point out that to tap a phone you need a judge's say-so. But under these proposed laws, killing someone could end up being an internal box-ticking exercise. Anyway, if you want to hear more from me, please don't forget to subscribe and also press that little bell, or you won't get any notifications. And if you want to see more of me, buy a mug with my mug on it by following the link in the descriptions box below and support me on Patreon or PayPal. So what do you think about these new proposed laws? Please share and comment, and thank you for watching.